we're going to do a video on a visual that we're putting out um, on how to assess reactive strength. Because ever since the art and science of programming came out, we're getting questions about assessing for point A.
Hmm.
And reactive strength questions are coming out. We did a whiteboard session on there, if you recall,
Yep.
walking through this. So we kind of write in the article that if you haven't seen that, watch that because it's going to make this make even more sense. But I'm going to share the visual, okay? And so you can see this Substack will go out at some point. The video may beat it, I'm not sure. Okay, so assessing reactive strength, top down or bottom up. So when you're assessing reactive strength, right, you're assessing there's a tissue component, but there's also a neural network component. So
Correct.
you may find tightness, and if it's tightness, then it's a neural component. You may find tension. If it's a tensional component, right, that's going to be a tissue behavior. So we have videos, Shivers, you go through the difference between tightness and tension, right? But realistically, those two interplaying give you reactive strength,
Correct.
right? That's the special. That's our inside out special strength definition of what it is. And so let's kind of. I'm going to stop sharing that and kind of go through so that people, because when you're doing an assessment, if you're in the clinical space, or even now if you're in the strength space, you can do a reactive strength assessment, and you should start to figure out, hey, is this a top down issue? Is it a bottom up issue, or is it a both issue?
Hmm. So let's
And
just talk. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And we have the internal isometric continuum to tell us how to behave in this scenario to a large degree.
Yes. So, so I
So let's
think,
link those for us.
yeah, I think linking them obviously starts at point A. So
Okay.
first and foremost, before we even talk about the reactive strength, top down, bottom up stuff, what we have to understand at point A is we have to understand the athlete who we might be programming for.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to go in with the lens of who is this, who is this person, who is this athlete, uh, at what level of competition do they function in?
Mm-hmm.
More specifically, what is their sport? What is the demand of their sport? Uh, what are the movement components of their sport or their athletic activity? That has to create the initial funnel through which you're looking at this special strength.
Mm-hmm.
From there, you have to understand, based on the demands and the movement requirements, what are then the reactive strength requirements? And
Mm-hmm.
in what movements do they occur in? At what positions do they tend to occur in? At what joints and what tissues do they tend to occur in? Um, because again, that allows you to create that funnel where you can more accurately define what is the reactive strength requirements that this athlete needs at his or her level of competition.
Okay. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Can we do that funnel and walk through one example, like let's say like a hockey player in a hip?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, we tend to use hockey a lot. Maybe there's
Baseball in the shoulder.
we tend to use that one a lot. We'll do
Okay.
hockey just to keep it simple. We'll do hockey to keep it simple because I think we can break this down. So, point A, reactive strength assessment for a hockey athlete. Let's just take the act of skating first and foremost. It's the fundamental thing that is going to occur at the level of competition for hockey. Uh, Everybody kind of knows skating, so I won't get specific into the movement demands or whatever, but obviously the hip is going to go to the side, abduction. The hip tends to go backward if we're accelerating. If we're maintaining speed, we're going to the side. So there's going to be a large reactive strength component of the inside thigh tissue, so the adductor tissue in the stride. Okay. If you can kind of think about then the movement that occurs at the level of competition, the tissue that reactive strength demand occurs in. So we've done that. Now we think, a typical hockey shift is, let's say 45 seconds. How many strides would they take in 45 seconds? Kind of gives you the specificity of how many times they're going to have to pull into that reactive strength requirement.
Mm-hmm.
Over time, you might get, like at that NHL level, those are 20-minute periods. So someone who's playing fairly often is going to get, maybe 18 minutes of, well, maybe that's a bit high. Somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes of action in a typical game. How many strides are they going to take within that? Those are all like those are the details that we might have to go through to understand how we are going to see this reactive strength requirement for that athlete.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that lens can get pretty granulated
Mm-hmm.
as you start to really think about it. From there, we get into the hands-on component of the point A assessment. So now the
Mm-hmm.
first question we're asking is, can this athlete who has these demands that I've just sort of gone through, can they actually even get into the position whereby, if let's take a step back. Knowing the athlete as well, you'd have to have a little idea about their position that they played, their stride tendencies. Some players are a little bit more lower to the ice, so their stride is going to be a little bit longer. Some players are a little bit higher from the ice, so their stride is going to be a little bit shorter. So these are other things that you would have to know. Then you have a lens of and a picture of movement demand so that when you get the athlete on the table, their ability should at least correlate to a pretty high level to their movement demand or their movement tendencies.
Mm-hmm.
So the first question we're going to ask with respect to the stride is, what is the hip flexion position that they can get into? And what is the hip flexion abduction position that they can get into? And
Mm-hmm.
then at the end of that stride, what is the hip abduction position that they can get to with varying amounts of hip extension? So those are movement questions that we are going to try to find answers to.
Mm-hmm.
What we may come across, which then gets us into the specific reactive strength uh, discussion here, is we're going to come across three potential findings. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Finding number one, athlete can get into the position. There's a high correlation between the position that they can get in, uh, that they can be moved in, the position they can get into on their own, and the position that they move into the most based on their movement behavior at the level of competition. Great. Second uh, scenario would be athlete doesn't get into the position. We can't get them into the position. And we can't get them into the position because there is a limitation in their ability to get into that position. Specifically, in this case, that limitation would be in the tissues that are required to have the behavior of reactive strength.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's
Okay?
huge.
Correct. The scenarios, so that can be broken down into scenario 2A and scenario 2B. 2A would be that the athlete can't get into that position because they're being limited by a top-down limitation. They're
Which
being
is tight.
they're being shielded neurologically, as we
Mm-hmm.
as we spoke about in the learning module. That would be correlated to the tightness, which is a global entity that would be in those tissues, all of those tissues. So this could be in the whole area of anatomy, whereby that neural network is shielding them from getting into that position. It's locking them down for whatever reason. We don't really
Mm-hmm.
have to get into those reasons specifically yet. So that means